Online hear us okay?
My wife.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes.
Here? Okay.
I know Susie.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get the meeting called to order. And the first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda for for tonight's meeting. Does everybody have that in front of them? All right. Anybody have any questions about the agenda? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
All right, we need a second.
Yeah.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All opposed, same sign. All right. Then we're going to look at the minutes from the August 20th meeting. Does anyone have anything that they believe needs to be changed in the meeting minutes from the August 20th meeting?
Yes, can we change the spelling of my name, please?
Yes.
Shelley, Shelley Anderson.
All right, any other corrections or changes that need to be made? All right, seeing none, I will open the floor for a motion regarding the agenda. Minutes, yes, sorry. Yes, minutes. I'm reading agenda minutes, yes. All right, somebody want to make a motion about accepting the minutes with the correction made? Somebody,
I motion we approve it.
all right, and we'll need a second.
Second.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All opposed, same sign. Okay. I just gotta keep myself moving here. All right, next item is our public agenda, and we currently do not have anything scheduled on the public agenda, so we'll go from item 4 to item 5. And we'll see if there's any members of the public here who did not sign up to speak that wish to address the board. All right, seeing none, we will continue on, and we have Tyler. And I will just let you say your last name because I know I will mess it up. And Tyler is going to talk about the ADA improvements that have been done to the city's website.
So I'm Tyler Schiffelbein with the City of Wichita Communications team, and a couple years ago, I was tasked with looking at the website, overhauling it. I don't know if you guys remember the old website, but it was in pretty bad shape, hard to find stuff. It was not really ADA compliant. I met with the mayor and was showing her some features the other day, or I guess it's been a couple weeks now. But she asked me to share this with you and show you some of the features that our new website has. So did I just share that? Okay. So if you go to our website, take it. I was trying to edit something on the fly. Let me turn that off. All right, so when you go to our
My first.
Okay, so it looks like we're back.
Nice.
Where are you, district or? one?
District one.
Share the screen and try this again.
Here.
Okay, cool.
I apologize, Jessica. I missed that you, I'll make sure I introduce you to everybody here in just a minute.
It is still not. Okay, so hopefully this will work in real time here. So that we have this little accessibility feature called Audio Eye. We paid extra to have this on it here. It helps with all of our ADA accessibility on the website. Provides quite a few tools that just didn't come with just the standard website as yourself. So if you're sitting here looking at some of this and the contrast is an issue for you, you can hit this contrast button. It'll change the contrast to help for different vision issues. Another thing here is if the text size is, you need to make it bigger,
That's nice.
it can bring it up to its largest, make it larger.
In real time.
You can do spacing where it spaces stuff out apart. So if you don't like it so close together, that's one. These font options are really cool. So this one makes it a little bit thicker font. And then this one here, for people who are dyslexic, this is something I learned when we were going through the process of building, is having the font weighted at the bottom. It's easier for people with dyslexia to read the font like that. So they can click on that and it makes it easier for them to read. We also have this guide here. So as you're reading through documents, you can help guide, or you have this window, you can help just kind of narrow into wherever you're reading. And then another one here is this images tab. So one of the big things about accessibility on websites I didn't know until I joined this project was you got to have alternative text to all your images. So someone who's vision impaired, they can't see what's there, so they need an audio reader to be able to explain what that image is. So every time we upload a new photo to the website, we have to put alternative text describing what that picture is. So, and we have a limit to how many characters. So it's some pictures, there's quite a bit going on, you got to be very focused, but so you can kind of hover over here and it will say what each of the images have. So that's kind of the down and dirty overall. For Audio Eye, is there any questions?
So this is all new,
Yes, we launched the website in December.
and this is not just, this is part of the DEI audit, is that what this is about?
No, this is.
This is what?
Go ahead.
So it's not part of the audit, but it is part of the strategic plan for accessibility. One of the goals one of the goals for the strategic plan was to review information and language of government processes and services to ensure accessibility. And so we found that the website was a major weak point for accessibility. And so that's what prompted,
What were the weak points?
well, just inability for certain people, if
Dyslexic and all these different,
and non-compliant with screen readers. The language was a big one.
Yep. So, yeah, I lost the little tab down here, but there was a thing. It will take all the text that's been typed on there, not what's on images, but any text, like say this upcoming event. So hopefully it works this time. I can change the language and it should change everything, all the text on the page. So we're
Now,
more
whether that's
accessible to.
grammatically correct in the new language is a whole nother story.
Yeah, you're kind of relying on Google Translate, but
Right.
it's at least offering something that we just don't have the staff time to translate everything real time.
Is Swahili one of them, right? Is
I
Swahili one of the
believe
languages?
so. Yep,
Yep.
so
Yeah.
there you go.
Wonderful. Congratulations, I am impressed. Yeah.
Another thing we were finding is because people apply for jobs for the city through the city's website, we were potentially losing applicants who couldn't apply because of, visual issues, because of disabilities and even language. So this is effort
Vast
to
improvement.
address that.
And I just ran a scan on the site from one of the accessibility checker websites, and I think we're in the top 3% in the country on the website, so.
Congratulations, that's awesome. Thank you.
so did you do it, or could we hire somebody from outside that?
So I kind of manage the project. I don't work in IT, I work in comms. So our previous website was hosted by our IT department through what we call SharePoint. We went out and found a external vendor, Civic Plus, who does government websites, and worked with them. We went through our RFP process, but worked with them to get this project.
So is there a way to get the word out about this? Like to let Wichitans know, hey,
Yeah, we are pushing it every chance we get. to-
Fabulous.
Like make a little YouTube with the.
Yeah, there are videos out there. When we launched the website, we did a whole bunch of how-to videos on how to use different features and that sort of thing.
And what was the company called or the vendor Civic?
Civic Plus,
Cool.
so they are in the website world local. They're out of Manhattan, so.
Cool.
So were the YouTube videos in different languages too?
If you turn on the closed captioning.
Okay, all right,
yes.
all right, all right, as long as that's there, all right.
That is something we're trying to work forward, I will say, in comms, to include more at least Spanish language. I know for some of the bigger events like boil water advisories and that sort of thing, some of the drought announcements, we try to translate things into Spanish and Vietnamese, at least have those news releases in those, so. But the videos is something we would like to explore down the road as well.
Yeah.
Great.
Awesome. Anybody else have any questions? Yes.
Definitely happy to see that.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Yep, thank you all.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, so we will move on now and we will have Mike go ahead and present on our strategic plan and kind of where we are.
Absolutely. Okay, so for the new members and people who I have not met, my name is Mike Urban. I'm the, working, for the city, I'm in human resources, and I've been tasked as being the liaison to this board. So the strategic plan, was developed a few years ago and kind of serves as a roadmap of what this board, wants to do by establishing these goals. So there are a lot of goals, and what we decided, early on was that it's too much to try and do all at the same. So what we decided to do was kind of triage and take things, what we had a discussion about what makes the most sense to start with, because there are some things that build on other things. If you look through the strategic plan, you'll see that there's some goals that can't be accomplished until the previous goal has been done. So I'll kind of run through where we are, where we started, and we can kind of have that discussion about, how we want to proceed.
Are the goals these that Wichita State put together for you?
Yeah, that's it.
So Wichita State facilitated the meetings, but the goals were set by the
By the
board.
board.
Yeah.
What year?
Oh,
2021?
I think the process started in 2021, but the strategic plan was launched in 2022, if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you.
Well, this was completed in August of 20.
that is the facilitation and planning. That's.
It was it was a long process, and again, I wasn't here for.
The board
this, so-
wasn't a board until 21, so it didn't start in 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so one of the goals we decided to tackle first was under talent retention, attraction, and advancement. Goal one is to develop and implement procedures to foster an inclusive organizational culture that encourages the hiring of diverse talent reflecting the demographics of the community. So we decided to tackle strategy one, which was to develop and distribute an internal climate survey to assess city employees' perceptions of organizational culture, including diversity, equity, and inclusion. So this is one of the first things I worked on. We actually have, I worked with IT to get the DEI climate survey that we developed in a online form. So this is what it's gonna look like when we give it to the not citizens, the employees of the city of Wichita. So you see, it starts off with just kind of an introductory statement, introducing the board, why we're doing this, why we're sending out this survey. If you scroll down, it gets into the definitions that we're gonna ask our employees to use for the purposes of this survey. And then it gets into some demographic information. The reason we want this is because we want to be able to report out based on, does public works feel differently than our police officers? Or, based on the people's length of tenure with the city, do they have different perspectives about and attitudes towards DEI initiatives? So then you'll just see, and these questions for those of you who have been on the board, you guys saw these, I want to say back in April, when we went over these. And then, so there is, if you go back up just a little bit, these are all on a Likert scale. So strongly disagree, disagree, agree. And then if you go down to the last page, we have an opportunity for some open-ended questions. The reason we had discussed possibly doing this paper The big drawback of that is with open-ended questions, if we have a bunch of, there's 3,100 city employees, that's a lot of, things that somebody, probably me, would have to go through and rewrite and put in a usable format. So, right now, this form exists solely not offline, but it's not available to anybody besides me, Lily, and Jennifer, who helped me create it in IT. We haven't released it yet. We are, one of the things that we had discussed as a board was we do need a communication strategy before we send it out to get the maximum amount of participation on this so that we can get the most usable data. But as far as strategy one under goal one, it exists. We just need to figure
So
out.
the goal is to release it with an announcement, whether it be a employee meeting or something, and then push it out there. And then there's a time frame that you're wanting it back so that you can collate and assess.
Yes. And our strategy is going to be to utilize the power of the city manager's office to put pressure, for lack of a better term, on our department directors to encourage down the line to get, the rank and file employees to get this done. Our thought was if this is just something that looks like it's coming out of a board or HR, it might get ignored. But if we utilize, Dante, Bob, and the city manager's office to put that downward pressure on our management teams, we might get the feedback and the results that we're looking for. So.
Yeah, what is the goal for participation? 80%, 75%? Like, is
I don't think
if we
we had
get
that.
a certain amount, are you gonna be like?
20%.
Yeah, I don't think we actually had that conversation. Yeah, I mean, with 3,100 employees, even if we get a third of them, that's still 1,000 responses. So I don't know. That's not a conversation we had about targets for, we just figured, what can we do to maximize?
Question though, because if we aren't seeing participation, do we want to leave it open longer and look at ways to try and get more
Right.
responses?
Well, if you don't, is it anonymous?
Yeah.
Yes.
So how do you know?
Well,
I
we will
mean-
know the numbers of how many people have responded.
Yeah.
But we would just have to send reminders to everybody because we
Right.
won't know who responded and who
Right.
did not.
Right.
Because it's important that it be anonymous.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we mentioned that in the introductory paragraph. It is anonymous. And working with IT, we made sure that it only can be completed once per person. So that, somebody who
No
really has an
such
axe to
skewing
grind
it.
doesn't.
That's
That's
right.
what I was
Go
gonna say,
in.
duplicity could be a
Have we
problem.
sent out surveys before to the city?
I have not.
As
To
board?
city employees,
Has it been
no,
out to
no,
city
we have not.
employees for this board?
And this is gonna be coming from the city to their employees,
Right.
just with our name on it. We're not physically the ones
Mhm.
sending it out, but yeah.
And there's no possibility of it being passed externally and completed?
I don't know. I would have to follow up with IT on that.
Yeah, we need to make sure that's also.
Right.
I don't think so because I think it exists in our internal city of
Right.
Wichita
SharePoint.
SharePoint.
Yeah.
If you're able to shut it off after they've done it once, then you should be able to see that it's only internal.
Yeah, I
Right, well,
think-
and if it's on SharePoint can only be accessed by the IP addresses who've been given access to that because the county used SharePoint,
Right.
so, yeah.
Will there
I'm
be
not tech
specific
savvy
times
enough to-
allocated to take the survey?
I didn't catch that.
Will there be specific times allocated for the employees to take the survey?
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea to, and have that discussion with the board about what is a reasonable timeframe, to get it accomplished.
Selena, were you asking, will people be provided time in their
Yes.
workday to take the
Yes.
survey?
Okay, I
Yeah.
misunderstood.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's something we would be working with our management teams on to make sure that people have time, compensable work time to get this done.
If they will physically either have to be VPN'd in or they will have to be on the network to take it, so
Yes.
they have to do it while they're at work.
So couple other things. So I just completed one for my employer of similar size, national employer. And I think having a deadline is good because then you can see how many responses you have had a week before, right? And go back and say, so, I mean, that might be basic, but I'll just state it, right? That might be helpful. And again, I'm sure some care will be discussed and that comm strategy is being discussed about assuring the anonymity. Thank you, good Lord. Yes, it's a hard word. About that, whatever kind of overly supportive and, I don't think you can stress that enough with folks
Right.
about that aspect of it.
Mhm.
And gosh darn it, I thought I had one more thing and it left me, but I'll speak up if I remember it. Thank you.
I think messaging is also important. When you do surveys, people want to know what's the value, what are we doing with this survey? So messaging around it, I think would be very valuable as well.
I agree. Can you pull the survey back up? We tried to address that in this first part. If you scroll all the way to the top, this part right here.
Mhm.
And, obviously, this is being driven by this board, so this isn't, if you guys see anything you want changed or reworded or
Can we have this?
emphasized,
Do we have this in print?
no.
No,
Yeah, it would be helpful.
it'd be helpful to have.
I have it as a Word doc that I sent to IT when they created this, so I can share that.
Okay. And does that include the questions?
Yes.
I know you shared them to us, but yeah, it would just be helpful for the new board members
Yeah.
particularly.
I can share that.
Yeah.
So a couple things, we had discussed other alternative methods to reach employees that don't have a desk job or even have a computer relative to their desk
Right.
job, like
Public
bus
works
drivers
yeah.
and things of that nature. So I am wondering if there's any plan as far as that goes. And then just randomly, I also wonder, just in today's day and age where these words are loaded, diversity, equity, inclusion. What if you were, and it's anonymity is guaranteed. What if, is there a plan to, deal with any overtly harmful topics, language that could come up? You know what I mean? Like I could see someone,
Right.
I don't know. I mean, they, again, you have their work email, et cetera, their IP. So I imagine anything that's anonymous at some point is not entirely anonymous, ? I just wonder, right, if you did get hate speech, that's my question. If there's any hate
Well,
speech
you-
that
you
comes
can't-
through.
They have
Yeah.
anonymity. so
Yeah, I
you
just
can't,
wonder,
like,
yeah.
click 'em
It was
and
just a
time out.
random question.
But I mean, I think that is
That is
valuable
important to
information
know.
in and of itself, because if
Mhm.
you have,
Mhm.
1,000 people responding and you have one person going, so with some hate speech, okay, we have some issues, but if you have 100 out of that
Right.
1,000,
And
then
I
that's
know,
a
I
lot of
expect-
information to do something with. So
Yeah.
that still can be helpful information that you build on and do something with, even if you don't know the specific people.
Right.
And that's something we can kind of talk more about if it comes up. I hope it doesn't.
Yeah,
I hope it's not an issue, but it still we can get positivity out of that, is my
Yeah.
point, I think.
and I guess I wonder if those comments and all of that will be shared with us, the entirety of the results.
Mhm.
Okay.
Probably not the raw data. I'd probably put together like an executive summary.
Yeah.
For
I
you.
appreciate that sincerely.
Yeah.
I go back to the fact that you were mentioning, I mean, thinking of the guys that clean the streets and
Right.
patch,
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
if they don't have a city
Right.
computer, how do they respond and participate?
So I did talk to IT. Unfortunately, there's not an option to do it on phone. I know that was one of the options we
Yeah.
talked about, was
And
trying to
anybody
figure
can do
out
it,
some kind of
yeah.
app.
So it'll just be one of those things we'd have to.
We're just gonna
have a
have
copy.
to, managers are gonna have to make sure that they provide time for their
Absolutely.
employees who don't sit in front of a desk most of their workday to come in and do this. And we do that for other things, like all of our employee evaluations
Right,
are online, so
right.
we, they know that they have
Enrollment
to
for
make time.
medical and all
It
that
can
stuff.
be done.
They have to have it set
Right,
up.
so even though maybe their job is, they work in transit and most of their day is driving a bus,
Right,
there is, we can build in those opportunities for them to come in, spend half an hour, working on this.
so what's our time frame? November 1st, December 1st, when are we gonna release it?
That's,
Do we, has it been legal, is already taken care?
I've
You're a
already-
lawyer, so is it,
I've already shown this to, the HR director, Dante has seen it. I don't, I don't know if Dante showed it to Bob. I need to follow up with Dante on that. But yeah, I mean, it's it's in a stage that's ready to go.
Okay.
We just need the
Okay.
communications plan, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, but
will
you
need
can
to-
work with communications to help with that, and then to me personally, I kind of trust that your communications department can help craft that, and we don't need to wordsmith that. Anybody else have a problem with that? Because we don't need to be too far in the weeds. But, I mean, that's what they're there for, so,
Is this the only thing that's been done from the strategic plan?
No, I gotta.
no, and we.
This
and
is
we-
just the first thing.
And remember, the website was also on the strategic plan, the making it more ADA accessible was on there as well.
And when
How's
was
the
the survey started? Like developing?
When did I start working on it? Like, let's see, I started here in January, so I think March.
This year?
Yeah, so part of why we feel like we're lagging a bit was because we had to get a mic
Yeah.
before we could start moving forward on some of this. Anyway, I think somebody online had something to say, I'm sorry.
I just had a couple of questions regarding like the hate speech topic and that sort of thing. And you guys may know the answers or may not. When an employee signs on and joins the city, do they sign like a code of conduct where they would have already said like, we won't be doing this sort of thing in the workplace? And then the second part of that question is it worth adding a line to this that just says like hate speech will not be tolerated?
So,
Is
yeah.
that enforceable because we're doing it anonymously?
Right. So yes, our employees are given expectations regarding communication and, technology use and virtual communication. I'll say I'm really not super concerned about getting a bunch of hate speech on here. If anything, people might say they disagree with diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, but I don't think they're gonna write it in a manner that's inappropriate or abusive or unprofessional. Because the thing is, even though we're telling them it's anonymous, and it is, they still have to log in with their credentials to take this. So even though we're not gonna look, in the back of their mind, they're probably thinking, okay, I had to log in.
Yeah,
So
this is employer.
right,
driven.
so I'm gonna say what I need to say, but I'm not gonna be over the top.
Well, and quite frankly, if they are, I think we'd rather know that we need to, even though we won't know specifically who it is, I would rather know that that's out there
Yeah.
than not,
Yeah, and,
honestly, and I
you know,
think we
and
should.
To Shirley's point, if we do see a trend coming out of a particular department, let's say, we know that we might need to allocate some training resources to that department to do a better job messaging our DEI initiatives to that, to that group of individuals.
Well, and can I just real quick follow up on, I don't remember who said it online, but like the messaging to people. I think and we don't have to talk about it now, but I want to put it out there, the follow-up to this, once we get this out there and the surveys out there, I just have seen, and I don't know what happens in the city of Wichita normally, but just where I've worked in places, the lack of communication.
Mhm.
And so I think communicating with everybody that what happens to the survey, the valuable information we get from it, and what happens as a result, that will encourage people to continue to communicate and continue. So I don't want to drop the communication once the survey's done. I just want to put that out there just real
Absolutely.
quick.
Yeah, I think it's valuable for the employees to actually have the chance to see the results, not the
Absolutely.
aggregate results, not the individual.
And they're listening and they're doing something with what we said. That's so important. So just,
Yeah.
I want to just throw that out there right now.
So
And
this
I-
is the paper copy of the survey?
That's the next thing on here I'll talk about.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Oh, you're good.
And just to piggyback off of what she was saying, also that allocation of time. When you tell someone that this is important enough for us to schedule it for you, it just sends a different message. We did these surveys at the Postal Service, and you're talking about 654,000 employees. And the response rate was so great. But again, I think it had a lot to do with, we allocated a specific amount of time for people to be able to do it, to show them that it's important.
So anybody else have anything to say before I ask a question of Mike? Okay, I don't want to cut anybody off. So what at this point is holding us back from going live and sending out the survey?
Basically, the board just saying, let's do it.
All right, I will entertain a motion. I think,
so
yeah,
moved.
okay,
And I'll second that.
all right.
Can
All
we
in,
still get a copy of it then? Okay.
yes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, let's go. Thank you. All right.
All right, so moving on, looking at the strategic plan, still under goal one, strategy two. The strategy is to conduct a DEI audit that assesses language and job descriptions, hiring and advancement processes, and strategies for attraction, retention, and advancement of underrepresented employees. That was what was on the table. This is just a draft that I developed, and this is just my thoughts on how we could potentially achieve this goal. This is the first time I've shared this one, so feedback is more than welcome. It does not have, it doesn't have to look this way in its final form. I am open to ideas.
I'm sorry, will you repeat one more time the target here?
Create a DEI audit
Yeah,
that assesses language and job descriptions, hiring and advancement processes, and strategies for attraction, retention, and advancement of underrepresented employees.
And before we start the discussion too much, if I recall correctly, when we first had this conversation with someone from HR, I don't even know how long ago now, they indicated that there was a great need for them to be going through and updating most of the job descriptions anyway. So it was just kind of folding this into work they were already gonna have to do.
That already happened.
There
Yes,
is work
and-
being done on that. That did happen.
Yes, and I was just saying that when we had this conversation, it was back while that was not completed. And so it was kind of incorporating this into that process. Anyway,
Do
continue.
I have what you're talking about in front of me?
It was on the table.
That's this.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So the idea was to say, how are we doing in this particular topic, and then provide the opportunity to write how we're achieving that. So, for example, the language updates to the job description,
Who's this for? Who's the person, who is supposed to get this to complete this? If the other is the individuals, who is this for?
This is probably something that I would work on internally with HR, with other members of
Okay.
human resources.
So this is
Not the
specifically,
employee.
this is
No.
specifically for job descriptions.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
job descriptions,
Interviews,
interviews,
hiring
panel.
processes in general.
Yes.
So I know that there was like a dashboard to be able to track what has been done, or where can I find either part of the board or externally as a citizen, what has been done with this board?
So I think the dashboard was one of the strategies that was supposed to be getting done.
Yes.
That,
Because
We
all I
haven't
could
made it
find
there
are
yet.
just like
Yeah.
minutes.
Yes,
And
yes,
they're very
correct.
slim.
Yes,
and not even, yeah.
yes, that's just one of the things we have not gotten to yet.
all right, so I will kind of leave. I know this is you guys' first time seeing that. So I'll probably the thing to do is just kind of leave it with you, let you review it.
Okay.
And then if you have questions or comments, you can email me throughout the month, and we can still work on developing this.
So is this supposed to again be an annual thing or a one-time drop or? what?
It doesn't really say, but I do believe that the idea is to assess annual and see what kind of progress has been made.
There's a
think
reference
that's-
on number 5 to the DEI board. Who's the DEI board?
You have, I can grab myself one.
I think it's. Oh. This, number 5, sorry.
That was this DI board represents diverse communities.
Oh, that's this board.
I would say, is
So
that
That's
it's-
what I was
yeah.
wondering.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know why I called it the DEI board, but this is what I was.
Okay. So you think folks in human resources, so again, to the point, I don't know, I mean, I think we were both experiencing some lack of clarity as to the target here, and you said human resources. So this is the Department of Human Resources, all employees within the Human Resource Department, period.
No,
I
human
don't
resources
understand
would be
this.
the one who conducts the audit. So I would sit down with like our hiring team, our hiring manager, and say, let's see. Does our organization utilize different recruitment channels to attract diverse
Okay, so it's
applicants?
for management, hiring managers, all hiring managers across the city.
Yeah, but, so HR, since HR is involved in all aspects of hiring, regardless of
Yeah.
department, they would have most of these answers.
Okay,
So like where we recruit, how we do hiring panels, how we train the people on hiring panels. HR would be able to provide the responses to most of this.
But isn't HR the ones responsible for the action? So they'll be auditing themselves?
Well, and
Maybe-
that's why I purposely picked some things that I know we're not doing. So
Okay.
that way we would say, no, we're not doing that. And this is something we need to be doing.
Got
So, yes, but I guess if anybody has a better way, I'm all
That's
ears.
better.
I was just trying to think of, I didn't
No,
want
I
to just
get
pick
it.
stuff that I knew we were already doing.
So I think originally when this conversation kind of came up, there was some conversation about an outside entity being hired to do some of these audits. And then that has not been the will of the city.
Right.
And so we need to redefine. So when that was written, the thought of the board, when we put that goal in there, was that someone from the outside was gonna be looking in. So at this point now, we need to readjust because that's not going to happen.
Right.
And so we need to adjust and determine how do we best move forward on this goal in a somewhat limited capacity, but still do our best to accomplish this goal, I think is where we're kind of at. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Not
no,
saying, do
if-
you agree with that? I'm saying, does it make sense as to how we got to where we are right now?
Yeah, no, if the city would allocate resources to hire an outside agency to conduct an audit, that would be the ideal way to do it. But ain't no money. I mean,
Yeah,
they're,
we just need to work with what we, yeah.
yeah. So,
so do
that,
they really, the question about the DEI board, which is us, the Diversity, Inclusion and Civil Rights Advisory Board.
We're not the DEI board.
Yeah,
Yeah, it just
fine.
needs to be
Yeah,
changed.
yeah, yeah.
The wrong name was used in the
Yeah.
question, that's all.
But do folks really pay attention to the work of this board?
folks
That,
being,
who will be,
The HR people.
yeah.
well, I mean, I do.
It's your title, but she's talking about.
But I think from what Mike is saying is that this is gonna call attention to things that are lacking and things that are doing well. And so the things that are lacking can be bolstered and the things that are doing well can just be reinforced. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, and
So-
for example, some of these questions are not just going to stay in HR. So for example, the HR doesn't impanel this board. This board is by our elected officials, our council people and our mayor. So if we find that, our board does not represent diverse communities, then that would be something that I would need to take to the board as they start looking for new members. So, there's some language in the ordinance that talks about how they wanted to comprise the members of this board. They wanted
Right.
specifically to pull from, underrepresented communities and populations. So, I think it's pretty diverse. I mean, looking around the board, so if you guys have any thoughts on any other questions, again, I was trying to do this as unbiased as possible without making it so that we can answer yes to every question. I want this to be useful. I don't want to just do something to do it.
I have another question about that number 5 still, the representing diverse communities. I mean, I don't recall ever filling out a form identifying myself. How does anybody know? How does anybody know if I'm not Latino,
I
if
think
I'm not
when we
queer, if
apply-
I'm not?
Yeah.
Because I've never filled out a form identifying, I don't think.
I think when we applied to be on the board,
Was
we
there?
had to put
That's
that
what I was
information on the
trying to
application.
ask. I don't remember that. but
Part
okay.
of me being here is I work in corrections. I work, so part of what I represent is people who are on probation and parole and stuff. I'm not on probation and parole, but I want to be able to have a forum to say, does the city hire people with records?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Just for what positions, like,
Right.
and be able to push that. So while I'm not that, I still represent that. So, but it would be nice to know, because I was thinking the same thing I was like, I don't know what is
So
represented here.
those of you who are newer on the board.
Yeah,
Because you would have more recently filled
Yeah,
out the
I don't
application.
know.
Mine was like 3.5 years ago,
Yes.
so I don't remember. Do you remember filling anything out that asked for your
No.
demographic data?
no, it doesn't
No.
ask like that.
Maybe, I don't know.
It just
No.
more asks for your experiences
Yeah.
and kind of like what you're and I don't remember specifically, but
Right.
like more
We need to look
your
at that.
perspective
Yeah.
on
'Cause
it.
in the ordinance, it has a whole list of
Right.
things, it was like
Position for
religious
soliciting
leaders,
votes,
so there was like a whole
League of
list
Women
of,
Voters.
yeah, of people that, so whether or not the elected officials are utilizing that list in making appointments.
Well, I just wonder if
It's
that
kind of-
list is
yeah.
necessary for someone to even answer that question, a summary of the board's diversity,
I would say
right?
it'd be
You
good
know,
for
I
us
mean,
to
I
know
I
too.
just don't know. I guess I just don't know what that,
Well, like I said, this is a draft.
yeah.
So if, there's heartburn
think
about a
we should-
particular
we should-
question,
yeah.
I have zero problem removing it.
I'm gonna recommend that what we do is we all take this, digest it, come up with what we think needs to be changed or how we think the process may need to change or move forward. And we put this as an agenda item for our next meeting. Does that sound doable to everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Because then we've all had a chance to think about it and thoroughly read through it.
I still want to know who's really gonna who's gonna do, is it, if it's HR people, if it's every department head, who is.
Well, and I think ultimately the data is for us to identify where we believe we are weak. Yeah, where we're falling short and to try and push change in those areas. I think that ultimately we're gonna be the ones who the data comes back to look at, not that we're exclusively the only ones who will see the data. But it will be on. it
Like
will
this
fall-
question too, our staff have participated in at least one diversity inclusion.
Right,
That's
We don't know
for
that.
department heads, or
So,
that's
right.
for.
right,
Well,
so
but
maybe it's
that's
just still
information HR
ambiguous,
can
so,
access because we run training.
and they have electronic records, so again, I'd say.
I think it's way premature.
Let's digest this, let's have our conversations, and then it's not like Mike was gonna turn around and put this out tomorrow, so
Yeah.
let's
I even
discuss
watermarked
this
it.
on an agenda item
Yeah.
for next month. And then we will all have had a chance to discuss it, and we can talk about our ideas of how to move forward with it, so,
Perfect.
all right.
All right, next thing we worked on, still on goal 2. Strategy 2, establish employee resource groups that build networks, enhance career development, and contribute to personal development. We have, as of November of 2023, formally introduced employee resource groups to the city of Wichita. We currently have 2. There is one that is LGBTQ plus, and then the other one is senescent. I think I'm saying that right, which I learned was a biological term that refers to the act of aging. And their goal is to make cross-generational connections, so generations in our work environment. All resource groups are available to all employees. You don't have to be a member of the group that's the focus to be a member of the group. In fact, in the bylaws, you cannot exclude any individual from these resource groups. Did you have a question?
Yes, I was wondering if you could spell that word for the other board?
Yeah, SENESCENT.
And those are the only 2
Yes.
that exist?
Yes.
And do staff know the process to request or start an ERG?
The information is out there as to whether or not they know, I don't know. But the information on our employee resource groups is found in SHIP and can be accessed by employees. They also put out information in our weekly, there's a weekly newsletter that goes out to all employees. Whether people read it, I don't know, but the information is available.
I guess I just wonder, sometimes things like people don't know that they exist or that those opportunities exist to start such a thing. I guess I'm wondering if there's any kind of additional education that can be done in that regard. Cause I just, again, think of my organization of similar size and we have a veterans ERG. We have parents ERG where parents can support one another. We've got a Hearts with Soul ERG, which are, Black people that wish to, I gather and talk about issues. And then I think we also have a Latino ERG. And then, of course, LGBT ERG is Hearts with Pride. Anyway,
What kind of
we just
strategies?
have a lot,
So
right? Of these varied interests. We don't have the other thing though that you had to spell.
Citizen.
Yeah, we don't have that.
What kind of strategies does your agency use in getting the word out to?
I don't know, because they were all like in existence when I came on, I think 5 years ago. Ever since I've known ERGs were a thing, they've been there.
was it,
But I do
Right.
wonder, right? Yeah, Angela used to work there. Angela.
Some of it is the internal communications and like a yearly push, if you will. So like maybe twice a year, making sure that it's in, like make sure you're signing up, or if you've joined the organization in the last 6 months, are you aware of these sorts of things? So it really becomes an internal communication piece and figuring out how to weave it into the strategy. And even when they're onboarding, saying there's opportunities for this.
Okay.
so were these developed through the cities, like city employee or how, or just like someone who wanted to start this group?
It's a city employee who wants to start the group, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, they're all led by city employees, so it's not like management
So then.
creates one and then invites, it has to be driven by the employee.
So as Angela was saying, like, but make sure that information is in front of them, like when they're onboarding, like, moving forward, everyone who's hired a piece of paper or something that this is what's current and whatever the guidelines are to develop one.
Yeah, I can speak with our training, because we do new hire orientation every other Monday, and I can speak with Betty, who's our training manager, and see if maybe they can work in some information about our ERGs.
And does the city have like yearly training or bi-yearly something where updates on things, or, I mean, I'm sure there's times throughout the year where there's communication.
Well, we do have annual required training, so like our sexual harassment and discrimination, those are
Okay.
annual, but we don't, a lot of our training is voluntary or job specific.
Sometimes a manager will force someone to go to training.
Right, yeah, we do ask people to train if there's a, performance issue or, something, but it's something university, a city university, I think is is that what it's called? It's a whole book of training opportunities for our employees, but yeah, let me do some thinking and talk to other people in HR about how we can possibly.
Is there a guide how to start an ERG, how to start an ERG and the parameters within? Because
Yeah,
I do know that's some of the maybe challenge is you have restrictions on when they can meet and gather, not during work hours or whatever. We're a little bit less restrictive at my employer in that regard, right? We see benefit just in that team, and bonding and everything. So it's not quite as restrictive, but anyway, at least having that how to and.
There is a document that exists
Okay,
that
okay.
talks about what it takes to create one.
Okay,
How to initiate it. I think probably is just, we need to do a better job of communicating. Because it's pretty new. I mean, they only formally got approval to have this program late last year. So, man, I guess it's been a year. Is it really?
yeah.
Late this year.
Because one of the things I had brought up a while back is that I thought an activity for this board could be to meet with the ERGs.
Mhm.
And just listen, be a sounding board for things that they feel are, are important and, anyway, because I was thinking I could buy pizza, and have a lunch, the members of the board or whatever.
Well, I know our LBGTQ plus group did some things during Pride Month.
Yeah,
So I know they had some activities.
that's cool.
And then, you know, they were able to advertise on city, on the website and on other places, so. Okay, so, our goal is to create more. And I think the communication piece of that is, but for the purposes of our strategy.
Yeah.
They exist. We have the
Yep, yep, yep.
ability to have them where we didn't before.
How much more do you have to go through here? I'm sorry. I want to make sure
I have quite a few.
Okay, so we
I can
might want
buzz
to
through.
start, we might want to start
I'll
sectioning
keep
this
it.
out to, you give us in bits and pieces, because we kind of have latched onto a couple things here
Yes.
that we probably want to discuss more in depth at next month's meeting.
Okay.
Which is great. I am excited to see people engaged in this. It's been a while since people have been this engaged, so I appreciate it very much. So
I can briefly talk through the rest of it.
yes, briefly,
Really
let's just say he's going to briefly talk through this, flag the items that you think that you want to go more in depth on, and then we will fit those into upcoming agendas so we can keep this meeting rolling. Does that sound fair?
Yes.
All right.
So we've also made progress on goal 2, strategy 5. We have created new policies around sexual harassment and discrimination and harassment. We're in the process of getting those adopted, but it has a whole new process for reporting, a new process for investigation, new definitions of prohibited conduct. We've updated our list of protected characteristics. The old policy was really outdated, so that's good. We've also made progress on goal 3, strategy 2, which was to create mandatory DEI education and training for management and supervisory staff, and provide voluntary opportunities for all staff. Again, we do have a very robust training. We do have annual discrimination and harassment mandatory training for all of our employees. And we've also begun to incorporate, I go to new hire orientation every other Monday and spend about an hour with all of our new hires talking about expectations for our work environment, prohibited conduct, the definitions of prohibited conduct, how to file a complaint, how to file a report if there's something going on in the work environment that should not be happening. We made progress under the equity and policy programs and services section, goal 1, strategy 4, which was to evaluate and create an equitable process for funding targets to support a supplier diversity program. We do have a an emerging business enterprise program that has seen a lot of success over the last recent past. Basically, a business in the city can apply to be an emerging business through purchasing. And then our goal is to spend, I think it's 5% of contracts go to these emerging businesses. So during the July 2nd council meeting, 12 out of 17 departments were awarded the Supplier Diversity Award, indicating that they met their goal for EDE contract spending in the last fiscal year. So all told, a total of 12% of all contract spending went to one of these emerging businesses. So again, these are small operations. These are local to our community, so it helps keep those dollars into our community. So that is we're well on our way to achieving that goal. And then lastly, community engagement and partnerships. We have been working on goal 2, strategy 1, review information and language of government processes and services to ensure accessibility. You guys saw what Tyler has done with the website, and conduct an annual internal review for accountability. So the work on the website, we've also done a lot of work on our limited English proficiency policy. That is a new policy that we've developed to make sure we're in compliance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, and we're not discriminating against people based on their inability to speak English. We're still able to provide municipal services, give them access to all of our programs and activities, regardless of their native language. So those are the parts of the strategic plan that we have done or in process, or in some cases complete. We just need to expand, for example, the ERGs. So that's where we are with the strategic plan.
All right, that was a lot of great information. I appreciate it. And I'm
So
gonna
do I have those documents that I can follow along? She's following on the computer.
Yep.
I
They
didn't
can
bring my
email
computer.
to you.
They're on the website too.
Are you looking at the strategic plan?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you should have the strategic.
I'll
plan.
send it again after this meeting.
And I think it was printed out and sent, it was printed out and provided last month, I believe, right? In physical.
Yeah, it would be helpful to know, because you're kind of like all
Yeah,
over,
yeah.
to know what has been worked on and accomplished.
So I know we talked about finding a way.
Yellow, green, yellow, red.
Right, right.
Yeah,
I mean, if we can have that redistributed, I mean, I'd have it in 3-ring notebook, so I know what the hell we're talking about. I'm not gonna bring my computer and try to dig for it. So, sorry,
And-
but,
yeah.
I have this piece that I printed off, but I did never receive anything different. This is my 3rd meeting.
Okay.
Sorry.
So I think it would be helpful if we can come up with some way of tracking this. I know we've had a very brief conversation about this a while back, that the board could somehow just, we could have access to. I'm not sure the best way to do that. But that's a conversation we should probably have maybe at another meeting as well, is how best to keep us all. And I know a lot of you are drinking from the fire hose as far as he's trying to tell you where we are. Some of us have been along for these steps, and so we already knew some of this, but right now we're trying to get you all up to speed. But yes, having something that we can actually track would definitely be
So
helpful.
like for that strategic work plan, it says by June 2023, in partnership with the city, will develop a dashboard to track and monitor. So what's holding us back from these? from-
Target dates.
Yeah.
Well, some of that was because we didn't have a mic yet.
Yeah, I didn't
in
start.
2023, so
I didn't start.
He's Mike, we didn't have a
start
city
the
liaison.
board
We
until
didn't have a
January.
liaison at all?
We did, but they were not full-time, they were not focused
And-
on our work, they had a
And
lot
is
of other
the
things.
liaison the one that's developing and doing it all then?
Yeah,
Then what's the point of us?
Well, no, we're helping, but the point is we're trying to, again, when the strategic plan was created, there was a lot of conversation about hiring outside people to do some of this. That is not in the cards. It's not something that we can do at this point. So we are trying to realign with resources that we have available and get what we can done. Mike was not put into this position until January, and he's been working, I mean, you could hear all that he's accomplished in that amount of time. He's working hard, but he's not gonna be able to magically have everything on that list done. So I think, as I stated, I think having a conversation surrounding the dashboard is something we need to pursue.
I mean, a spreadsheet?
Yeah, yeah, just something that we can, yeah.
Looking at it, it is, there's like, what's the transparency here? Cause it's been a board for a couple of years and I couldn't really see anything more than the non-discrimination ordinance, but I know you have been working hard and all of you, so I don't know really what's been going on, so. I think that's important. A spreadsheet or something, I mean, even just for the new members to know. So I'm not repeating myself of like, we should do this, you know.
I'll put something
Do
together.
this.
and-
You still have to do all of this.
Oh, I know, I do. That's why I'm trying to kind of.
Yeah.
Shepherd us forward. All right, so we're gonna move on from the strategic
Oh,
plan update
okay.
to the board agenda. And I'm gonna pause at the moment and just give Jessica a chance to introduce herself, and then let's go around the room, those members of the board, and introduce ourselves. Jessica is a new member of the board. Tonight's her first night, so go for it, Jessica.
Hello, my name is Jessica Maldonado, Wichita, my whole life, basically. I've been involved in everything around town, mainly my activism and volunteerism started out in the sustainability environment sector. I helped establish the Citizens Climate Lobby chapter here, active in Sierra Club, 316 United, a newer cohort group of environmental stuff. Co-president of League of Women Voters. I have an 11-year-old son. I just like to help out my community because everyone deserves a good quality of life, and there are those imbalances and that's not happening. Well, we'll stand up and continue to talk about it. So that's me.
Art Allen, this is my third meeting.
Shelley?
Shelley Anderson. Technically, this is my first meeting. I came to one other one, but I wasn't a board member yet. And then the day I got appointed was the other meeting, but it was also my son's birthday. So sorry, missed that one. Since then, my other son has had a birthday and I've had an anniversary. So lots have happened since I saw you guys last, but glad to finally be here and be able to participate. And as you can tell, I'm a little bit of a talker.
And you're 6,
I'm District 6.
and you are, who put you on the board?
Wu, Mayor
Okay.
Wu.
Ian Demery, District 3, have been part of this board almost since the beginning. I actually came in midway through the first term after the District 3 member had left. I am an educator as well as a citizen, have run for office many times, as well as doing a lot of public service things. But I currently teach through Butler Community College at the El Dorado Correctional Facility, which is why I was kind of late here because I had a meeting with a guy who is actually going to be up for parole very soon. So helped with that. So awesome, go me. But my main thing is to be part of something that can really help the community and to just, yeah, make this city a better place for everybody.
Carrie?
Carrie Rinker, appointed by Council Member Tuttle. I just started my second term on the board, but I was appointed halfway through the first term. So I had a little bit of catch up and still feel like I'm catching up a little bit to a certain extent. But I have lived in Wichita this time since 2008, but from McPherson and moved back and forth a bit, et cetera. But anyway, and I work for a national nonprofit doing government relations.
Tabitha Lehman, I have been on the board since its inception. I am, my day job is, my 24-hour, 7 days a week job is elections. I used to be the Sedgwick County Election Commissioner, and now I'm still in it in the nonprofit world. And on the vendor side.
Ooh, I
So-
knew your name.
Yeah, yeah. So I kind of bring, I mean, you'll hear me, I already did this evening reference election turnout and things like this. You'll hear me constantly bringing in things from making sure that we are, and it's not really a function of the city of Wichita, it's a county, but making sure that we keep things in mind from the election side as well, whether it's being polling places or things like that. In the past, it's not been the easiest to get city of Wichita to be polling places, but it's a whole nother conversation for another day. Anyway, so that's me, and we'll go online now for the rest of the board. Angela, you want to start?
Sure, I'm Angela Breer. I have been on the board for a few years. I came on during the strategic planning process. I was appointed by Council Member JB Johnson, and my day job, I own Dot Strategies, a marketing and communications freelance and consulting firm.
All right, Selena?
Selena Farrow, this is my third board meeting, appointed by Mayor Wu. And my day job is customer experience consulting, and looking forward to contributing.
Right. And I guess I should reference, I was appointed by Councilman Glasscock. But before that, move on. All right, so now we'll move on with board agenda. We do have a board position. The Wichita Sustainability Board is required by their bylaws to have a member of our board on their board. That was very poorly worded, I apologize. And that is currently available and open. One of our board members, Josh Shorter, who is not here, did express some interest in it. But at this point, we can entertain nominations, and you can nominate yourself if you're interested in it. But certainly have a conversation about anyone who is interested on being
does
on the
it do?
Sustainability Board.
What does it do?
Sustainability Integration Board?
Okay.
I'm gonna guess that you know better than me.
Sustainability and integration.
Yeah, Sustainability Integration Board is what it is, full title, full name. And it was, Wichitans worked very hard to get it established, going in front of council over, I don't know, 30, 50 times.
It was.
And, you know, that's integrating sustainability efforts. So Some things are slow moving, like whenever a light bulb goes out in the city, in a city building, they replace it with an LED. Then they have other efforts. Anybody else want to speak to this? If I don't want to.
I was, no, I'm just thinking you probably know more than most of us, so that's why I defer to you on this explaining what the board is.
And they require someone from here? Or
Yes.
We require.
No,
somebody
they
from here?
require someone from here and they are bugging our poor city employees about who our appointee is going to be, because the person who was in the position left the board. And so when she left the board, then she left the sustainability board because she was a representative of this board onto the.
Don't you want to
sustainability.
do that?
I do not have the time.
Cause you're the most seasoned person on the board.
No, Tabitha is the most
But
seasoned.
Yeah, as far as the longevity of being on the board, but
Okay.
Josh has expressed interest in the position if no one else wants it. So just
How
throwing
long has
that,
he been on the board?
he came on at the same time as
The
you.
same time as me?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, well, you're gonna notice that other than a couple of us, that's where we are, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we just need to,
I nominate him. Shorter, what, his name is Shorter?
yes, Josh Shorter, yes.
Can we nominate him when he's not here?
He did email me and say
Or-
he was interested in a nomination, so we can, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I also threatened people to nominate them if they weren't here, but I was joking.
Well, I will nominate myself.
Okay.
Hello.
I was gonna-
You all
wondering
just
if
met
you
me
would
for the
do
first
that.
time, but I
Yeah.
initially applied for a SIB position since I watched them online or would go to them in person and follow actively and work with a lot of them in outside groups, Lori Lawrence with all of the groups. One of the things that I've noticed about the SIB is that, like a lot of boards, they can be effective, but they also can be slow moving. And gathering, but if the people ask for it, if we're pushing it, then it happens. And so I think that one of the things that they need to incorporate is reaching out and tapping out to the local groups that are around town, actually, doing things and work with them. They did just hire a part-time employee this year for the money that they were granted from the city, $200,000. So he has been an asset, but that his position isn't solidified. There isn't funding for it in the future. So there's a lot of work to keep that board sustained. And yeah, that's
So I'm gonna pause things because Art nominated Josh and we need to have a second to his nomination before he's on the ballot and then we'll move back to
Sure.
Jessica. Okay, so is anybody second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all right. It's nominated by Art
The
and by
objective is
Shelley.
for them to take to the sustainability board what it is that we're doing. It's not just to be
don't-
sitting there without, it would be the point.
Right, I think it's to be kind of like a liaison between the two, so coming back and reporting to us what's going on the sustainability board, if there's something happening on the sustainability board that affects us, that we should have input in, it's going both ways, would be my interpretation. Okay, so,
And there's never been one before.
no, we had one before, but that
this
member
person.
left the board, and so then she left
Okay.
that, yes.
As well.
So then, what I'm going to recommend is we're gonna go back to Jessica. You have placed yourself in nomination. Does anyone second that nomination?
I second that.
Okay. All right. So then what we're going to do, then I'm going to just say, I recommend that we go ahead, especially since Josh is not here, that we place on the election for next month so that Josh has a chance to say why he's interested, even if that's just by email, instead of taking a vote tonight when Josh is not here to speak for himself.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So anyone else interested in, and let me just say, I am excited that we have an election, people. I know how to count votes. All right. Actually, I won't be the one counting the votes, but that's okay. So, all right, anyone else interested in serving on the sustainability board? All right, so then we will move on down to nomination of chair, vice chair, and parliamentarian. So before we get started, especially since Jessica is new, I'll just give you a little bit of lay of the land. I am currently the vice chair. The chair resigned from the board to actually run for office. So I am the vice chair serving in the role as chair. We need to have an election for chair, vice chair, and parliamentarian. I have been, who is currently Ian, but Ian is actually term limited, didn't we determine that? Yeah, Ian is term limited and cannot be parliamentarian again. He could, however, step up to a different position if he would like.
How many
So
terms per
and-
position?
You can only
Two?
do it, yeah, you can
Two
be elected
terms?
twice, yes.
And it's
So-
1 year term or it's a
Yes, it's 1 year term.
2 year
Yeah.
term?
Yeah, 1 year term. So at this point, one of the things that I have expressed to the board at back-to-back meetings is I can serve as chair. I am currently serving as chair because I am vice chair and therefore I have to, or co-chair, however it's worded. I travel a lot for work, and so even last month, I chaired the meeting via Zoom, and I just feel like that's tacky. So I can do this, I can continue on if that's the will of the board, but I just want to make sure that people, if somebody else wants to step up into positions that they have that opportunity to do so. So there are options here. Anyone can nominate anyone to any of the positions except for Ian. Ian can't be nominated to parliamentarian again.
I nominate you as chair.
I hadn't even gotten done with the explanation.
Sorry.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, great. Okay, you're writing this all down, right, Lily? Okay. Does anybody else want to step up to be nominated, or do they want to nominate someone else for chair?
I'm sorry, there was some talk over here, and I got just, so I couldn't hear who was nominated.
I nominated you.
Lynn just
Thank
interrupted
you.
and nominated me.
Thank you, thank you.
And, yes, and then Jessica seconded. So does anybody else want to be nominated or want to step up and nominate themselves? Okay, so let's move on to vice chair. Is anyone willing to step into vice chair? This would be serving when I cannot be present, is basically the role of vice chair, right? Yeah.
Is Angela interested?
I've already tried that. Angela?
I have already tried and I've already declined.
Yes, I've tried.
Well, I guess before the nominations, what are the like descriptions? What is the time? I mean, what is?
Well, so for
Right.
chair, we meet before each meeting and set the agenda.
Mhm.
That and then run the meetings. And we're supposed to be doing it according to Robert's Rules of Order, which is why every
Right.
now and then you'll see me go, oh yeah, supposed to be following that and start
right.
steering us back onto that. The chair is literally filling in when the vice or co-chair, vice chair, whatever it would be filling in when the chair is absent. Probably most of the time, the agenda would already be set by the chair with city staff, and then the chair, the co-chair or vice chair would just run the meeting. Parliamentarian is literally supposed to be someone that if we all get into a brawl, they're the ones that get in between us all and say, stop it. We have to be polite and we have to follow Robert's Rules of Order, which thankfully we've not really needed in quite some time. I wish we had never needed it, but we haven't needed it in a while. So, and I am not gonna go into detail on that. But there's a reason there was a lot of there was stagnation and not movement for a while. So we were dysfunctional. So that's the job descriptions. It's not. But you do have a time commitment to be at meetings and to,
Right.
yeah.
So
I'm willing to serve as vice chair since no one else with tenure has.
Just fair
stepped up.
warning, that's what I did. I
Thank
did
you.
because no one
Thank
else
you.
stepped up. I
Thank
stepped
you.
up.
Thank you.
And now I'm chair. I will second, Carrie.
And I will make Angela buy me dinner.
There you go.
Okay, fine.
All right. And then parliamentarian, is anyone interested in making sure we're following the rules?
Do you have to know the rule?
I would be recommended to study them after getting elected at the very least.
Right.
I have it on my bookmarks tab
Yeah, Robert's Rules of
Yeah.
Order, so I bet you do.
to read in my spare time.
Yeah. All right, so at this point then, I think what we will do is we will take nominations again for parliamentarians since we don't have any nominees. And I guess if anybody, no, I think we just need to say this was, we put out there that this was the meeting for nominations, but since we don't have nominations for parliamentarian, we'll open that up and hope that we can maybe get somebody who's willing to step up at next meeting. So then, the only thing it looks like we actually have that's, we will vote on it, but then I would just recommend that we maybe make up, just little ballots. I don't really care. So that we can vote quietly and then have you guys count those. And then online, if anybody is online, for that meeting, then we will need to come up with an option. Maybe they can text their vote in to Mike or something like that. So it's not in the chat where everybody sees. All right, so at least we have some nomination. All right, so let's move on to the next item, which is the recording of meetings. We kind of discussed this briefly last month, but then Mike has an update kind of from IT. And so I'll just let him explain that.
Okay, so what we found out was there's really nothing saying we have to record meetings. Somewhere along the line, somebody just started doing it. And we believe they started doing it for note-keeping purposes, but they were never intended to be uploaded, which is why we kept getting the question, why aren't the meetings online? So that's why. That wasn't the purpose of the recording. That said, I believe those recordings still exist somewhere, and we would be able to work with IT to create a YouTube page to put those recordings online if that's what the board wants to do.
To the public or to just this?
Yeah, it's a public meeting, so we can, alternatively, we
We
can
can
stop
sign some kind of
recording.
releases,
Well, I think at this point, we're just discussing as a board, do we want to have?
but I mean, talking about the past.
But they're all
meetings.
public meetings.
They were all public meetings, it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we don't have any kind
I
of,
wanna see these.
I'm
contentious
100%.
meetings.
oh, none of those were recorded.
Oh, they weren't?
No.
Oh.
That would predate the recording, no, that definitely predates.
Oh, I
the
want to
I
recording.
was ready.
Yeah.
Alternatively, we can stop recording the meetings and just rely on our meeting minutes. Lily has got a hold of some technology that will help, some AI that's way beyond my understanding that can help, draft meeting minutes based on just listening, so.
Well, and
Um,
we could also approach it from that if we're gonna continue recording moving forward. The recordings are posted online because people
Right.
in the previous meetings, even though it was an open meeting, they were not made aware that they could potentially be posted. But I
And
don't
wasn't
know.
there a board member who really didn't want them?
Yes, there
posted,
was
even though
specifically
they
a board
are
member who didn't,
an
yeah.
open public
So,
meeting?
yeah.
So current advisory boards that are online and are on YouTube or stream live, like the Sustainability Integration Board is posted afterwards. Dabs are, mine
Yep.
is streamed live. I mean, the dab has to be streamed, but the rest of the advisory boards, there's nothing in like city ordinance that it has to be accessible to.
It has to be streamed, so we are online, but it
Right.
doesn't have to be recorded and posted
Gotcha,
afterwards.
gotcha.
And I'm always gonna fall on the argument of that we should be as accessible as humanly possible, so.
Yeah, it's
My
what the
argument would
board's
be, we
about.
record it and we post it in whatever mechanism, that's my personal opinion, yeah. But that's just me, so anybody else have anything else to say on that?
I think transparency is
Well, and things like,
100%.
here you are sitting here taking all these notes and physically having to be here when you could watch it. Because when I was on the league and I was doing things like this, I was watching as many things online instead of having to physically be there, and I understand that, so. Anybody else have any opinion on that?
I agree to err on the side of transparency and, when folks took this position, they agreed to be a public facing representative for the community. So we don't do that in the dark, in my opinion.
I agree.
So we'll
Do we
continue,
need to
if I'm
vote on it or
understanding.
just, or are you gonna talk about it next time?
Oh, I
You
think we
can
can
make a
just,
decision,
I think we can just vote on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. I guess somebody needs to make a motion so basically we need a motion that says we want to have our meetings recorded and have them posted to be transparent, or however you want to say it. So if someone wants to make that motion, I'm not allowed to make the motion.
I'll make a motion to have meetings be recorded and posted.
All right, a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. All right,
I do have a question as to why now, like, why is it part of the agenda? Why is it bringing?
Because I'm newly chair and this mattered to me that we be, so I put it on the agenda.
Yeah, and quite frankly, I didn't know that meetings were ever recorded before.
They always
this
said
moment.
recording in progress, but I didn't know
Yeah.
they weren't
Yeah,
posted. And
yeah.
so it was just kind of this whole conversation of finding out they weren't posted. Okay, why not? No, let's
Right.
move
I'd
forward
been,
with it.
I'd assumed since they were being recorded, that was.
So it'll be on the Wichita, city
No,
of
they'll
Wichita.
have to
YouTube.
create
I'll-
something,
I'll
so it
work
won't
with
be
IT,
tonight.
To
Yeah.
figure out, now, are you wanting all the past, if we can find the past
I'm
recordings?
concerned because that wasn't a specific thing to be retained. If we have one meeting here and one not there and
So just going
the
forward.
optics, maybe just moving forward. What do people think of that?
I think so.
Yeah,
Because
I
I'm
would like to
concerned.
see them if they're available.
Yeah, I like
Because it
any
gives me
information that's
context.
out there,
Right,
yeah,
it gives me context of
Absolutely.
what's happening here.
Yeah,
This is a little,
right.
How
There's a
is it-
it's a
lot.
little gray.
I mean, I watch Netflix at night.
I watch City of Wichita.
I
YouTube.
mean.
City of Wichita Netflix.
Sped up though,
I mean,
one point five.
Yeah.
People like. to
Sounds
talk-
like your life's a little bit more boring.
Yeah.
All right,
I'm
so
just
let's
kidding.
move on to the next item, which would be item number 6, which is community action, public engagement efforts. So this is a time when any board member, if you're aware of any events coming up, that the board should be aware in case we would like to attend. This would be your chance to let us know.
Sure. So like, what are the standards of
So, and
anything?
not political, but something that would be fall under the
I am
the
not
diversity,
political. I am a
inclusion and civil
co-president of
rights.
Legal Room
No,
Members.
I'm just, you said, what are the rules? I'm just saying.
Yeah, yeah.
We're not gonna be going to, we're not gonna be putting things
Sure,
out there for
sure.
the parties or for candidates.
We have
Um,
discussed about voter education events that have
Sure,
occurred in the
right,
community
right.
events at the Indian Center that folks should know
Right,
about.
civil rights, something that the
So-
African American community has put together, anything like that. So,
Tuesday, the what's today? Saturday, the 21st is, there's an inclusive collective that's LGBTQ plus, giving people a stage to perform and the support. It's called Wichita Collective. They're having a variety show at Tallgrass. And then Sunday at,
At Tallgrass Brewery, is that what you mean?
Tallgrass, no, the Tallgrass, like Film Center, it's in.
You mean the Lux?
Yeah, the Lux
Lux,
area,
okay.
yes. There's a panel, some type of thing, the Women of Brown at 11 a.m. on Sunday at 2418 East 9th. And talking about the history of Brown versus Board of Education and the women that played the integral part of that. That's Sunday, the 22nd at 11 a.m.
and where is that? I'm sorry.
2418 East 9th. I think that may be, I don't know what it is actually. I just wrote the
Okay,
address.
all right, that's fine.
Can you,
Poetry Unchained is led by Walter Gerton. It's at White Crow Cider, Sunday at 5:30 p.m. Diverse people, all different kinds, poetry stuff. And Tuesday, the 24th, League is hosting here at the library, Tuesday Topics at 5:30, which will be evolution of voting in our nation. And
And what time is that one? I'm sorry.
5:30, or sorry, 6 o'clock. I have to be at 5:30.
Did that get moved from during the day?
Tuesday Topics?
Yeah, I thought it used to be during the day. Anyway,
Yeah.
inconsequential.
And one more, Saturday, the 28th, Make Your Voice Heard celebration. It's the league in partnership with Jill Miller's Badass Women of Wichita and Lucinda's from 10:30 to 3:30. Little celebration in the square and, yeah.
So that was a lot of information. Would you be willing to
Yeah,
put that
I
in an
can-
email and send it out to the board?
Yeah, and I.
Or send it to me and I'll send it to the board, however, yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you, I appreciate that, because I chicken scratched it, but I'm not gonna be able to read that later. So, thank you.
Yep.
All right, anything else to be added to that list? All right, so our next item would be recommended agenda items for the next meeting. We already added a couple of things on there from our conversations with the, so we added the DEI audit. I would like to add a dashboard of some sort Is there anything else anybody else would like to add to that?
Can we add looking at the goals and potentially breaking them up, so that maybe into subcommittees, so that we can each start to maybe form a group and start looking at the goals?
Absolutely. So what Selena is talking about there is that our bylaws give us the authority to create subcommittees to look at specific topics. And so I think what you're proposing, Selena, would be potentially creating subgroups to look at each section of the actual
Strategic
strategic plan and
Mhm.
have them focus on that and come back and so it would be a subcommittee of members of the board, and then they would come back and report on that instead of every single item being all the time through everybody. So, right, is that a fair representation, Selena?
That is accurate. Yep.
All right, anything else? Because I think that's gonna be, oh, and elections, right, and elections, there's that. All right. Okay, does anybody else have anything to discuss or bring up? If not, we are going to adjourn the meeting at 6:58 PM. Thank you all. I feel like we accomplished quite a bit tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for answering my questions.
Jessica, can
you
you give me a little
Sure, sure. And I would be,